North America, Human Characteristics, Part 3. Okay, so when we're talking about a couple things, we've discussed a lot with the people of North America, of Canada, and the United States. We've talked about where people live, why people live places, the first settlers, building on it. So let's go further with it, build on that, and discuss the religion. The majority of religion of the people in North America, as you can guess by this picture, is Christianity. Most Americans and Canadians who are members of an organized religion are Christians. And when you think about the languages of North America, of course, Americans in the United States, our official language is English. But in Canada, Canada is bilingual. The country of Canada is bilingual, so they have two official languages, and their official languages are French and English. So Canada is a bilingual country. They have French and English as their two languages, and that's just because a huge segment of Canada was settled by the French Acadians, and the French Acadians, some of those French Acadians came down and settled, left Canada and settled here in South Louisiana. So we have a connection in South Louisiana to the Acadians in Canada. Now, when we talk about the geography of North America, it's a couple things you want to think about. Both the United States and Canada, we're both free market economies, which means that we're pretty close to a market economy. But if you guys remember what we discussed as far as pure market economies, there are no pure market economies. But the United States and Canada, we're mixed economies that lean closely to a market. Okay. And when you start discussing agriculture in the United States and Canada, agriculture is different because we're no longer an industrial, or we're no longer an agrarian economy, which means that agriculture is no longer our primary focus. We do not just have, we focus now more on commercial farming, which means we farm more for other nations as well as ourselves. And also we'll talk about the Corn Belt. And the Corn Belt is this agricultural region in the United States. It's where we grow a lot of corn. It's where we grow a lot of corn. It's from Ohio to Nebraska. And America's dairy land goes right in here. It's an agricultural region of the United States that stretches from New York State to Minnesota, and it's where a lot of dairy farms are concentrated. Now, the manufacturing and service industry in the United States and Canada, when we think about traditional manufacturing, when we think about things in factories, people building things, that makes up about 20% of the United States economies and about 20% of Canada's, and it employs about 20% of our workforce. Now we're undergoing a change in that because of technology. And as technology transforms the workplaces in North America, in both the United States and Canada, we're developing what is called a post-industrial economy. What that means with the post-industrial economy is that less emphasis is placed on heavy industry, heavy manufacturing, like this picture of the gentleman or the person manufacturing, putting together heavy machinery, putting together a car. And more emphasis is placed on high-tech businesses, like what you see with this young lady, which can be everything from computer engineering, developing computer software, maintaining computer software, all those things, those high-tech things that we're moving from today. So North America, we're moving from a manufacturing-based economy to a service economy, a high-tech service economy. Now, the largest percentage of the workers in the United States and Canada are employed in service industries. And generally, we mean high-tech service industries, things dealing with computers, things dealing with using intellectual property, computers, technology, highly skilled workers. That is an example, or those are the keys when you see an economy that has a large segment of its population in service or intellectual property. working in those sorts of fields, that is a good hint that you're dealing with a country with a high standard of living. High-tech industries are also growing rapidly. Apple is an example of a high-tech industry that started in Silicon Valley in California. And this is an area of California that has a very developed computer industry. It's where some of the world, 20 of the 100 largest high-tech companies are started here in Silicon Valley. Now, this picture, if we take a look at, if you know we're talking about the United States, if we're discussing North America and we're discussing the population and workforce in North America, what does this picture tell you? Let's take a look at it. We see one person, right? We see something representing one person or one worker or somebody appears to be in a white-collar job in North America, and the arrow takes it to, and the arrow is pointing to Southeast Asia, where you see many people. This picture is a great illustration of outsourcing, the phenomenon of outsourcing, which has started been occurring probably for the past 50 years in North America, where you take jobs that people produced in the United States or in North America, and in order to cut costs, you move those jobs overseas. And so in recent years, the United States, as well as other developed countries, have sought lower production and labor costs by outsourcing or setting up plants and factories abroad to produce parts and products of domestic use for sale. If you guys think about it, if you ever call into a call center, AT&T is horrible about this. If you call in for if you call in to have some work done, to complain about what's going on with your, oftentimes with your phone service, not so much your cell phone service, but like home service or your cable, you will go to a call center. You will not be speaking to someone in the United States. That job has been outsourced. That job has been sent normally to India or Thailand. Now, as a result of outsourcing, as a result of jobs being sent outside of the United States, this picture represents what occurs in America when jobs are sent outside of America. The factories that people used to work in are useless. And so they are standing there just like dilapidated buildings. And so because of the outsourcing and the shift up to a post-industrial economy, many factories in the northeastern United States began to locate or close completely in the late 1900s. So what ended up happening is that we have abandoned factories and steel mills all over this region of the United States, where manufacturing was a key to the economy. This left the region with the term called the Rust Belt. So this is now called the Rust Belt because all of the factories that used to be in that area that have now moved to outsource because of outsourcing, they're still there. And so this part of the area nation is now called the Rust Belt. When you think about exports and imports, when you think about North America, how are we as far as exporting? What do we do? Where do we stand as far as exporting goods out, sending goods out, and importing or bringing goods back in? Well, this is what we talk about. The United States, we spend more. We spend more on exports than we do on imports. So that means we have a trade deficit. And the result of that is this. The United States, we take in more goods than we send out. Okay, that causes us to have a trade imbalance, a trade deficit. Canada, on the other hand, they export more goods than they import. And so Canada has a trade surplus. And the result of all this, is this healthy for a country or not? You'll find different economists. You'll find different economists that have different theories on it. Now, Canada and the United States, we're both each other's largest trading partners. So Canada and the U.S., because we're both two highly developed countries, we do most of the trading with ourselves. So we are each other's largest trading partners. In 1989, what this picture represents is the North American Free Trade Agreement. Canada, United States, and Mexico signed the North American Free Trade Agreement, or NAFTA. And what NAFTA did, it removed the trade restrictions between these three countries. But it does so we're able to trade goods, but not labor. So Goods are freely traded between the United States, Mexico, and Canada, but not labor. Moving to the lifestyle and standard of living. As you guys can kind of guess, based on what I mentioned earlier about the types of jobs that the people in North America have, we have a high standard of living. People in the United States and Canada, we have a very high socioeconomic status and standard of living in comparative to the rest of the world. Okay, and when we talk about socioeconomic status, once again, this is just the level of income and education of the average citizen. Education. The literacy rate of both the United States and Canada is right around 97%. And the literacy rate is the percentage of people who can read and write. Healthcare. Now, this is where you find the difference. In Canada, the government of Canada pays for everyone's healthcare. In the United States, the citizens, it's up to the individual citizen to pay for their own healthcare, normally through insurance programs, and it's normally provided through your employer. This chart reviews or gives a highlight some of the similarities and differences between the United States and Canada. I'll go over it briefly. Types of government. We're both democracies. Now, the United States government. The federal government shares in the United States. We share our power with the state government. In Canada, the federal government shares their powers with the provincial government. The plan of the government, which is what is the document that sets the laws and rules and regulation for the government. The United States has a constitution. Canada has a constitution. The branches of government in the United States: the executive branch, legislative branch, judicial branch. Branches of government in Canada are the executive branch, legislative branch, and judicial branch. The name of the national legislature in the United States is Congress, which is the Senate and the House of Representatives. And name of the national legislature in Canada is the Parliament, which is made up the Senate and the House of Commons. And the head of the government in Canada, in the United States, is the President, and in Canada is the Prime Minister. A lot of similarities between the United States and Canada. A lot of similarities. One thing I want you guys to take away from this is that in North America, between the United States and Canada, two of the most wealthiest nations in the world, two of the most prosperous nations in the world, two of the most stable governments going forth in the world. Okay, two countries, very, very, very similar. All right, make sure you guys answer all the questions in bold and highlight the answers to all of the learning targets. Have a good evening, and I will see you in class.